That's the name of the game.
Here we go. Right before we kick off this episode of Tango One podcast, I am going to fill up a couple tequilas because it is Friday night and we're under the lights. It's the latest one we've ever shot. We've got fireman Casey Wright sitting next to me and fireman Corey Voltaggio on the show today because it is actually September 11th. This will broadcast in a few weeks, but it is September 11th today. And we just finished a killer workout in the garage gym, a tribute workout to all of the fallen first responders, in particular the firemen who lost their lives that day. We just walked up 1,980 stairs. So we are feeling it, and we earned these drinks. And honestly, it's for us is a little bit more about honoring those people because they mean a hell of a lot to three first responders, or a former first responder and me.
Tango 1 at the top, we're at follow vehicle. 10-4, Tango 1, you have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action, find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple. You're ruining that Tango One podcast. Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
So anyways, welcome to the Tango One podcast. I am Tony Smith, retired cop and tactical team leader. I'm the owner and the founder of the Garage Gym and Tango One Solutions. As always, joined by my buddy Casey Wright, Garage Gym trainer, fireman, amateur stuntman. And our mission week in and week out is to challenge you to live the tactical life, to guide you to create an immediate action plan against your problems and weaknesses. Simply put, we want you to do more and be more. Our guest, like I mentioned, we got firefighter, garage gym trainer, man of many stories, Corey Voltaggio. This guy's been a firefighter for 7 years. We have gyms in Kingsville and in Amherstburg, and he's been a firefighter in both those places. He's been certified in ice rescue and rope rescue. He started the garage gym about 5 years ago as a member, and we hired him just over 2 years ago. This guy is like so incredibly educated through his experience, and we love that around here. Experience over education. Education is important, but we love that experience. He's so knowledgeable. He assists Danny with the fuel program, which is our nutrition program, and he's a West Side tactical certified coach, which is very important for the first responders that we're training and for the everyday men and women, the general pop that come in here. Most incredible, though, is that to become a garage gym trainer and a member and an absolute beast in the gym, 15 years ago, this guy was 100 pounds heavier than he is right now sitting across from me. And most importantly, he's kept that weight off, which so many people struggle to do. Some of the most memorable garage gym quotes ever have come from this man's mouth. And he has a very, let's say, affectionate, maybe weird love of dogs. So we're going to talk about anything and everything today, I'm sure, because this man likes to kind of go off on his own route sometimes. And that's what I love about him. But he has had an incredible journey. We're going to talk about that. Some of the obstacles he faced. We're going to talk about, since it is 9/11, I got two firefighters sitting with me. We're going to talk about firefighting and what it means to be fit for duty. And just maybe some other things that come up in that job that even me, a cop who's always teasing those hose monkeys, I don't necessarily know. And I'm interested in knowing, because as much as we throw jabs at each other, when I see you guys actually gear up, in the middle of winter and fight a fire, it's a pretty crazy job when you're not making soup.
Oh, yeah.
Get my shots in. It's going to be all day, shots back and forth, going forth. So this episode of the Tango One podcast, though, before we kick it off, is brought to you by Stephen Kidd, financial advisor. Does your financial advisor take the time to really listen to you? Is your financial strategy personalized for you and your family? Will your financial advisor be there as your life and financial situations change? When you work with Stephen Kidd, your local Edward Jones financial advisor, he focuses on what's important to you. You'll work together and use an established process to create a personalized financial strategy backed by the advice, tools, and resources to help you reach your goals. And you'll partner to help your strategy stay on track. Contact Stephen Kidd today at 519-734-8599, 519-734-8599. Edward Jones, member, Canadian Investor Protection Fund. All right, man, let's get rolling. Let's just kick it off right away, man. Let's kick it off right away. Because to me, I couldn't believe when you walked in here 5 years ago, you're probably 30 pounds heavier, really, I guess, something like that. And you brought in a picture maybe and said like, this was me before. And we're going to put that picture up, Josh and Axel and Nico, Joe, somebody put that picture up for us. But it is unbelievable. It's like something you see from TV, kind of like Jared, the Subway guy. Like, honestly, I just cannot believe it. How did you get to that point? Let's go back 15 years and say, like, how'd you get to that point?
Oh, man. So getting to that point, like, there was a lot of events that happened during that time. Like, I would say, like, just experiences I had, like, with, you know, not fitting in the clothes I wanted, you know, like, getting poked fun at school. Like, it was just, like, a constant for me. So it was just added fuel. And, you know, I was always the happy-go-lucky guy.
So let me stop you there for a second.
Yeah.
So 15 years ago, give us like an idea for the listeners and for myself. This is high school?
I would say, yeah, high school.
Or just out of high school?
Just before graduation.
So weight was probably a problem through high school and then into like early college.
I started to realize it then. Like,
all right, let's keep going there from there.
Yeah, I started to really feel it then, you know, popularity and like, you know, every girl wanted to be my friend, all right? So like, I was more like, just like, why does everybody want to be my friend? Why do they want to be my friend? So there was a few guys actually lost some weight, and I'm like, you know what makes me different? What makes me different than him? Why can't I get to that point? Like, there's nothing that makes me different than I can do this. So, you know, there's a little story behind it because there was one moment in my life where it was just like, I flipped a switch, okay? And really, feel like once that moment happened where it's a girl, okay, I was chasing around a girl, and she seen me as a friend. And there was one night that I went out to go see her, and it didn't work out. Like, she still seen me as a friend, and it was New Year's. I'll never forget it. It was a New Year's night. It's a crazy long story, but ever since that day, I never stopped training, working out, eating better. It was just like, it just flipped the switch for me, like, ever since that day. So it was right before I graduated high school. And I knew I wasn't happy. I knew I wasn't happy during that time. Like, it really, deep down inside, I had to make a change. So I decided to do it. That moment, like that day, just flipped me.
So that's pretty crazy, because we've said this on a lot of podcasts now, right, Casey? Is that instead of looking at somebody else, like you said, you saw some friends or some, you know, other classmates that lost weight, and you're like, what's different about me? Nothing, right? And I think we've talked about that so many times.
And using it and finding your fuel with whatever it is. Right? A good thing, like, great outlook you had with that, and like you're here to admit is just like you have an issue with yourself or whatever it may be. And one thing that, like, it's not embarrassing for it to be something so little. Like, to be like, it was because of a girl. So there it is. Use it. We say it to clients all the time in the gym, is like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I want to live healthy through my 60s and that's why I'm here at the gym. It's like, no, some girl said this to me and now I want to prove her wrong. Use it.
Well,
right?
Can I chime in there with, you said fuel, and like, this is something I looked at for years, and I kind of always think about it. So, firefighter, sorry, Tony. But I think Casey,
here we go.
One, right? So, to start a fire, you need three things, right? Fuel, oxygen, spark. All right.
I was baffled on the third one. Damn
All
it.
right. So I'll test you. So
Tony thought 3 was a camera.
All right. So to keep the fire going, right? You need to take out, or to put the fire out, you need to take out one of those things, right? Take out oxygen, take out the fuel, you put the fire out. But what was going on with me is, like, I feel like I had fuel and oxygen. I had all that fuel built up, and all of a sudden, I think with a lot of people that make that weight change or any change in life, you need that spark, that one moment. And that spark, that one moment, which was a girl, let's say, and it just ignited a fire that I just kept going. And then, now you said before, like, 15 years, like, how did I keep going? Why do I keep going? Well, that fire triangle, that fire is still alive. It's just, I keep fueling myself with how I feel, you know.
Positive,
like the positive vibes to my health and nutrition and everything that it's brought me, and I just keep that fire alive.
Yeah,
That's
you
how
do a crazy job of staying very positive, man. Because like, you know, we've experienced some things in the last few years, you know, in our friendship, and I've seen you, you know, plow through some things. And I think it's pretty funny that like with the teens and like looking at, you're a teenager, we do train a lot of teen athletes in here, is we go in and like one of the things I say to the guys, the boys in here is like, you know, your mom and dad, you told them you want to get strong for baseball and you want to hit, you know, you want to hit people when you're playing linebacker. But I know the truth is you're here because you want to like look good for girls. And like, you know, like what a better way, honestly, to fuel yourself, especially as a teenage boys. I mean, I feel like that fueled every decision you made, and you took that and you ran with it, and you've kept it up for.
And it's confidence overall, right? Like that's the thing. It's like not necessarily to impress somebody else, but like when you're exercising, when you're starting to make changes, like when you at first probably dropped 10 pounds, guaranteed your confidence started to go up. You gain more fuel for it, another 10 pounds. Confidence goes up again. And that just continues and continues and fuels that fire you're talking about. And then all of a sudden, you're where you want to be or getting on that track or to it. And then now all these things that fueled you at first might be coming full circle around, right? That's when opportunities start arising, and your confidence builds so much through those experiences.
And it like, what did I know about fitness at that time? I didn't know much. I was a young kid. Like all I knew, and I swear to you here, is I would go to the gym. I got a membership after that day. That spark that fired me up. I went to gym. I got a membership. I'm like, Mom, get a membership. I did it. Everything. I would not leave that gym. I remember I was on an elliptical trainer. You know those elliptical trainers? I would not leave that gym unless I had sweat all the way down my, like, to the bottom of my shorts. Like, that was my test. Like, that was it. I wouldn't leave hours. I would be there. Now, looking back to all what I've learned since then, I'd do it a lot differently. But that was, like, the mission. That's all I knew back then. It was just a sweat, and I thought it was, like...
But don't downplay that. So anybody who's listening, if you want to make a difference in your life, whether it's losing weight, getting a job, changing careers, building your bench press, the first step to take is the first step. Take action. That's what this whole podcast is about. Yeah. Do something. Take action, and simple problem, simple solution. I mean, maybe being 100 pounds overweight is not a simple problem, but the solution is still rather simple. Eat healthy foods and move. And that's what you did. You didn't need this like elaborate plan. And I think people are very, they miss out on that because they think they need this like fancy plan. When you're 100 pounds overweight, 50 pounds overweight, and you've been inactive and eating shitty foods, really all you need is movement and some healthy foods, and you're gonna see a difference. Now, when you get down 10, 25 pounds, we need to add a little bit more. Right, or take away a little bit more depending like what the problem is or where the next step. It doesn't have to be crazy complicated. Just start going for walks. If you're 100 pounds overweight, just start going for walks and trying to cut down on one more meal a day.
And play your psyche too, right? Like, don't be like, oh, I didn't lose 20 pounds this week. This isn't working. You lose 3 or 4 pounds. Be excited about it. On the other side of the spectrum, don't reward yourself every time you make one of those small feats. Right? Like that's the thing I hear all the time is like, oh, I'm down 10 pounds this week, so I'm out crushing food all weekend. It's like, well, Monday you're going to be back, right? So slowly chip away. And then what's great about your whole story is you chipped away, but you just gained momentum that whole time.
Yeah, like, and during that process, like I would say it was a solid year of hammering myself. Like I was younger then, but I started to notice things like, you know, like my flexibility, I would get I would bend down and grab something better. You know, I was younger then. I was an active kid all the time. But at the same time, like, I felt myself moving better. And then I'll never forget it. It's just one of those things you don't forget. I bent down and grabbed something, and I seen, like, some veins. And I'm like,
hell yeah. Right. Flex Friday, baby.
Like, what's going on? Like, this shit's working. You know, it's doing good. And, you know, my nutrition was a factor too, right? It comes from an Italian background. None of fed me like crazy. It was like the thing, right? So was a big factor. I love food and I still love food, but you know, that's where I think I gained it all.
Just love it in moderation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I think like a lot of people in the gym don't even know this about you. And they're always shocked when we put this story out every year to inspire some people. During the 6-week transformation challenge, we kind of reveal this story and it's like new to, 50 people and they're shocked by it. But what that's done, and we talked about this again a few podcasts ago, is like when I go up to somebody and they're 50 pounds overweight, I don't think they take it differently from me because they know I haven't struggled with that in my past. Whereas you're able to just go up and tell it like it is because you've been there and you can relate, and then they can relate to you. And like we talked about Corey about having some of the greatest quotes in garage gym history. I think you said to one of our guys, Kimmer, who wanted to do a pull-up, hey, if you want to do a pull-up, the easiest way to do a pull-up is lose some weight. And you know what? It sounds mean, but it really was a simple solution. And what did Kimmer do is he went out and he did that. And, and if I would have said that to him, I think it would have been completely insulting. But you were being like very honest, and you were a guy who I guarantee 100 pounds ago couldn't do a pull-up.
Yeah, and the way I got across to that, and I know it comes across harsh, and I knew what it came across harsh, so I buttered it down. Like I know the feeling.
That was buttered down?
Yeah. Because
He had a dark
Well, I
something
hope
going
Kimmer's
on
listening
that.
to this one.
I know, lose weight. But, like I couldn't do a pull-up. I could not do a pull-up for the life of me. And I was a strong guy. I played football back then in high school, and I just moved my weight around. But why can't I do a pull-up? Well, as I started to lose weight,
Started to get up there.
I did a pull-up.
Hey, man, I can do a fuck ton of pull-ups, but if you put 100 pounds on me, I can't do any, I would imagine, right? Maybe I can, but I don't think I can. You're right. And like, imagine how much harder it is with 15, 20. And I know we've cut a little bit of weight and they can probably do more than we normally would, right? It's crazy how like people want a fancy explanation, but it often is very simple, even though it might seem mean.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, right?
And that's a big part. I think that's a big part of training within your realm in a way. And like, that's great advice for you to say. And that's great advice for you to tell people, and to know who you're saying it to is a big thing as well. And just like, that's what some people need to hear, right? There's a lot of people who beat around the bush, and know your clients and read the room and know who to say good in that to. But if you have that client, and that's like, I know for me, stuff like that fucking fuels it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, like those comments, like get off your ass, quit doing this. There's a lot of people in there, especially what gets brought up a lot, those egos. That's what they need to hear. And don't shy away from it, right? Be careful with it while you're coaching, but don't shy away with it, because there's a lot of guys in here that I'll say jabs to, and you see that spark, and you all of a sudden they get off their ass, and now they're putting 5 more pounds on the bar, 10 more pounds on the bar.
Yeah, like not be able to do a pull-up doesn't mean you're not a good person. At the same time, it just
absolutely
it's something
right.
Kind of like, to look at it literally. Like if you lose the pounds, if you do all of that, so nutrition and daily exercise and everything, that pull-up will come. Day in and day out, you try to pull yourself up. You do everything else, it will come.
Well, it's like, all right, you can take this and apply it anywhere. I want to have a larger investment portfolio. I want to save more money. Well, spend less money. Like, what's the difference of us saying that to somebody or us saying, right? And it comes down like not to, well, you know what? This is my fucking podcast. We'll pump the garage gym as much as we want. So we are not a boot camp. We're not a place that just like pushes people through and piles 40 people in here. We know every single person's name. We know what they do. We know their kids. We know their wife. That's where this comes into place. Knowing your client as a trainer, or if you're running a team in a bank, knowing your employees, knowing your team, and be able to say what needs to be said, and establishing an environment that can be done. Yeah. And what you said that day might not have worked on some other person. And I know you, as a coach and a very good person, you wouldn't have said that. You find a way to motivate somebody, just like Casey said. The medium shirt thing, I know that got under your skin, and now you're jacked.
I never should have worn.
And your bench press is fucking flying up, right? But it was a little bit of fuel to the
But that's
fire.
the thing. So what he says, there's
soft jabs at you wouldn't have worked.
Yes.
Soft jabs at you wouldn't have worked. Confident guy,
and
no
so
way.
through it, like when I started, I was lower in my weight. Like when I was playing football, I was higher in my weight. when I graduated, I realized I didn't need to carry all this. I carried a lot of weight, like in muscle mass for protection, basically on the field. Then when I was done, dropped down to like what my body probably should be at, but I think even lower than that. And one thing that sparked me, complete opposite, right? It's the same idea, but opposite was like, you're still in a medium shirt. Like, shut the fuck up, right? And then that was a big thing. And then it was like, one, I should have been wearing a large the whole time, but that just sparked it, right? Yeah. And then now it's like, I'm getting a large. And then it's like, fill out a large shirt. And that's like, again, sounds dumb or sounds so simple or however you want it in your head. But if that's what it takes to drive you, that's what it takes.
But it's not me. Here's the thing. Like, what I was thinking about was, so that fuel you just talked about, Casey, like all my events I've had up to that high school, so up to like graduation,
right?
Let's say, I've had a lot of things happen to me. So it would be like medium shirt, okay. So I had to go shop at George Richards. It was a big and tall store. My waist was a 52. So when I went to Villanova, I had to get special pants for me to wear. So like those were like debilitating me. I knew that it wasn't right. So all of that just kept adding, and then I had that spark. And then there was a lot of events too, like not be able to fit on a roller coaster ride, the walk of shame, that, you know, things like that. Man. And you know, they're not bad, but I use those to. I'm grateful for all those times, actually. No, I really am.
So let's take this lesson that we just like kind of really, you know, hammered on, and let's bring it into first responders, firefighters, cops. One of the speeches I gave this year with the COVID limitations, we didn't have as many people here, obviously. Last year we had this place full. Like there was probably 30 firemen here. And I gave a speech at the start. And yes, we talked about 9/11, and we gave that, you know, the memorial speech that is necessary and very profound. But one of the things I said to that group of firemen was, if this happened tomorrow, are you fucking ready for it? Because I'm looking around the room and a lot of them were not. And if you have a job to do, you need to be fit for the fight. And what do we need to do to inspire more first responders? This is a deep question because the cops in the same way, firemen get on there. These days they're hiring people that probably aren't in shape at the start, which is even more frustrating. But a lot of them, you know, get complacent. They've been there. They haven't had that call. And then it's going to come, man. I am telling you, as a guy who did this for 19 years, I'm working as much as we make fun of firefighters and you guys make fun of us. We were there alongside each other, a lot of calls. Mm-hmm. And not us in particular, but the badge and the axes.
That's the thing.
What do we do?
You cannot train enough or too much for a job that your life and other people's lives are on the line.
Yeah.
Right? Like even today, so we're doing our memorial workout. So we're doing all our steps, and we're 45 minutes in, and we've been doing steps the whole time. And there's maybe 5 or 6 firefighters in there, all local guys, and pager goes off, right? Everyone stops and looks around wondering who it was. It turned out to be not a thing, but it like just a message. But it's like looking around the room like, this is a call right now. I'm running a block over to the station. If it's your station, you're jumping in a truck and driving. Another guy's got to drive to his station. It's like, are you ready right now? If you finish these steps right now and get down and you get a call, are you ready to go for a 4-hour call? And that's all that ran through my mind. And that's one thing that like, I was happy to be able to think like after I was done, I was like, if something came down to it right now, I'm ready to go. And that's how you should train. You should be able to, no matter what, be ready to go.
And on that, Casey, like there's one moment, I think I told you in the past, Tony, I'll never forget, we were in training, we were doing firefighter survival, okay? And there was one guy that we were working with, and he piped up and said, you know, life or death situation, if I see one of you guys down, my adrenaline will kick in and I will grab you, and we were doing a Denver drill. So it was like pushing out of it's a long story. But anyways, the Denver drills, you have to push and brace a firefighter out of a window. Okay. So we were training for that. And then the one firefighter said, you know, when my adrenaline kicks in, I'll do it. And I looked at him and I said to myself, well, like, so I'm hoping that when you could not take care of yourself, you could not get in shape, feel good, strength train, and be ready for this, train for this scenario, you're going to hope on your adrenaline. Like, I don't
Right. And you know
thing.
what? Like, to take that a step further is that, like, one, I have been in a lot of adrenaline charge. I mean, I'm not the, I'm not the lone survivor or anything by that means, but my resume is pretty good. I've been to a lot of crazy shit and I've done a lot of crazy shit and I've seen adrenaline. It does have its role. However, there are two things that happen in those calls. You will either shut down completely or adrenaline will take you up a notch. Yeah. But you're also going to fall to your training. And that is 100%. You will fall to your training because I've seen it. I've had to shake cops because they are so locked in that they couldn't move. And you're going to fall to your training, and you can train through that, but you have to train through that over and over and over and over again and put yourself in those stress-induced situations that are going to get you there. And the other thing that results from that is Amherstburg Fire, Kingsville Fire, LaSalle Fire. These are not big places, right? These are not big teams. There's trust. And if there's no trust in your partner, you might do something that you shouldn't do. You know, when I was on that SWAT team, I knew if I turned right, that next guy was turning left and he had my 6. When I went back to patrol, there's so many great people. There were some that I completely did not trust. And that made me do my job differently and probably put myself at risk more than I needed to. So when you get on those jobs, you're swearing to protect the world, basically, everybody in this community. Yeah. You're swearing to protect the men and women that you serve with and yourself, man. Like, you're going in there. So I'm always shocked when I go in and we talk, and we have a lot of cops or want to be cops here, want to be firefighters, and a lot that are. And kudos to the ones that are here trying to get better. But I'm always shocked that you want to be a fireman, but you can't do a fucking push-up. Do you know what this job entails? You want to be a cop, but you can't pull yourself up onto that? Well, what about when the guy jumped on me in a rear naked choke to try to kill me? Yeah. How would you get out of that? Adrenaline's not going to take you through that.
Don't wait for the test.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to be the best, but train to be it.
Don't wait for the test in 3 weeks to start getting in shape. Be ready at all times. This is one experience we had. We were on a fire. This was with Forest Fire. We were on a fire, and it was one of the hottest days in the summer, 2018. One of the hottest days in the summer, and we got all these notifications like, take it easy today. Overexert yourself with water. Do all this stuff if you can. Basically, relax today. And we got called out to this fire, and we landed with the helicopters. Water bombers pulled off, and we started going out, and we were wrapping the fire. We had it under control to an extent. Wind conditions picked up, and the fire jumped about 400 yards. And it's now it's in this new set of trees, and it's all trees now. And it's if we don't catch this right now, we're going to be here for 5 weeks. Yeah. Right? And that's where our team, our training comes in, and a lot of guys, most guys are in really good shape for that. And it's now's the time to go. Doesn't matter that's the hottest day. Doesn't matter that we've been told this. If we don't catch this right now, it's going to be a long couple weeks. So we're running through the woods, throwing hose back, trying to get as far as we can to wrap the front of this. And we did. Guys are throwing up and all this stuff. But it's adrenaline's going to kick in so much. But I guarantee you, if it hops again, half those guys aren't going to kick that adrenaline in. And it's now it's your life safety or my life safety is in your hands.
Well, let's talk adrenaline. So adrenaline will kick you up, right? It'll do all kinds of insane things. I saw a guy slice his arm open and not bleed through a raid. I swear to God, he didn't bleed until the adrenaline dumped when the call was over. It's crazy. Right. But adrenaline will do a lot of good things. But adrenaline can also be a very negative. It causes tunnel vision. It's going to cause auditory exclusion, right? So all those things. So if you're one of the ways to break through that adrenaline, that rush that's going to get you too tunneled where you're not going to see what's happening, you're going to make poor decisions, or you're not going to see or hear something that you need to see or hear, is to breathe. And one way to train breathing is to, do an IWT here. Yeah. Do a real cardio intense sprint and teach yourself how to bring your breathing down. Because being a person who's been in some crazy situations, the only time I could ever explain the breathing that was on a foot chase or a crazy raid is after like a 2K row or like an IWT where you have 60 seconds to get back on that rower, and you need to bring your breathing from like to like,
Right.
and if you can do that, you can break audio. You know, you can break all the tunnel vision, all the audio, like the block that you're having, and you can
And it's like we do pack drills all the time, right? Where you have a 30-minute pack, doesn't last 30 minutes,
Right?
If you're not in shape, you're not getting over 5 or 6 or 10. But the thing is, like, controlling your breathing, like, fun tip, when you get in those hyper, like that quick breath, slow it down. Take those 2 deep breaths where you feel that burn in your lungs, pause and slow it down and exhale. Like for those 2, if you slow it down, and like, I'll say this all the time, people in class or people you see panting or struggling with that breathing, if you get into that high spot, take a deep breath. You'll feel that burn sensation in your lungs, hold it, pause for like 2 seconds, exhale slowly. Like those first 2 breaths are going to be tough for you. But if you do that, you'll instantly start to feel that heart rate come down and then get ahead of it. Start to control it.
Like, and like you're saying, Case, like, that's training. Like, not to discredit any, you know, I've only been on for 7 years, and it's a long time, but not a very long time. There's a lot of guys that have great skills, great abilities that can make the job easier and make it safer. That for sure. But I think we're missing the point where, like, your physical ability matters. Like it matters. When
it's
it comes
not
down to
end
it.
all be all by any means.
Experience plays a
matters.
huge role, especially in the fire service. Experience plays such a huge role in controlling your emotion, controlling your adrenaline, and that's the thing. There's captains and chiefs who have been there for 15, 20 years who aren't in as good a shape, and they'll be in a situation and your alarm's going off before theirs because your adrenaline's through the roof, you're excited, you're all this stuff, you're in a burning building, you can't see in your hand, you know, there's all this stuff, commotion going on, but that's only good to an extent. And eventually your physical, like, you have to match experience with physical. And imagine if you have that experience and your physical stuff. Like, we have a lot of captains and chiefs in the gym. Those guys, you can tell, like, they're confident. They don't have to worry about that because their job is to protect the guys they're with.
I mean, not to mention just the example being set. So, I mean, Jay DeRoche is in here. He's the captain, correct? I don't want to mess his rank up.
He's DC. Yeah, he's chief.
DC. Okay. So he comes in here and he works his ass off every day. And he'll tell you 3 years ago how hard this 9/11 workout, or 2 years ago, how hard this 9/11 workout was for him. And I think for him, it was a bit of like that also aha moment. I mean, with experience comes some age. And I tell you, being 42, almost 42 years old now, like, you do feel it a little bit slower, but you do have that experience on your side. And then keeping yourself healthy is a huge thing. And Jay's in there today, walking and stepping. And last year, the same thing. And he stayed there and he stayed in his gear until every single person was done. And he was capable to do so because he takes care of himself. Right. So you're going to now match that age. With comes that age, comes that incredible experience, which is experience when it comes to any first responders is, I would say, probably the biggest factor of success. Sure. And then you're going to add the physical ability with it. Oh. Man, you're going to be a force, and you're going to make other people around you that much better. And that's what it's all about. So let's talk about, like, Corey, like your perspective on this. So I don't want everybody who's not a first responder to tune out.
Yeah.
How does this apply to everyday people? The fucking same. The same, in my opinion. Because whatever your job is, like, what you do in the gym should make you better for it, in my opinion. And it should make you ready for it. And if you pull up on a car accident, you know, it'll help you to control your breathing just the same, because it is the kind of same rules. So what do you think when you're training an average person, what do you think, like, the most important thing for them is?
The most important thing to train the average person? That's a good question. Let's go with just the abilities to move better, to be ready, to be physically ready
If you're physical ready, you can control your emotion. Like think about when you're like, if you're a teacher or if you're a mother, father, things are stressful at home, right? Things are more tiring and easier to get to when you're tired. And if you're out of shape, you're tired, you're like, there's just all these things that if you're healthier, more confident, things can kind of brush off your back easier and you can handle situations before. What if your kid's up all night long screaming and crying and then you have to work tomorrow at 8 a.m., right? You want to be able to be healthy and have the ability to go to work. And now if you're a teacher, for example, you're giving a disservice to the kids if you just want to sit there and put a movie on because you're tired, as opposed to if you're healthy and on top of that stuff, it's the same as being ready to jump into a fire.
Absolutely. If you're a mold maker and you're slowing the line down, or you work at Chrysler and you're slowing the line down, like that is the same. Like whatever, the stressors will hit you less if you're in shape, if you're not malnourished, if you're well rested, right? Like those are all the things that you want to take care of. And I think that's where you want the average person to be able to get shit done, right? And that's what we preach every day. Nobody wants to be weak.
To answer that question though a little bit.
Yeah,
Tony,
let's
like,
go.
Honestly, like the big thing I feel a lot is when fitness, if someone doesn't have fitness and nutrition in their life, that's fine. If you take the vanities of the mirror out and kind of just look at how you can better yourself in life in general, like
Yes.
you will, the vanities in the mirror and the abs and all the big chest and shoulders and stuff, that will come. But like I feel like if we focus on if I can move better and be better, do better, you're all of that's going to come into play.
If you train for performance, the aesthetics will come.
Yes.
Right? So if you train for performance, the aesthetics will come. And performance being like functional to whatever it is that you do. Right? And I think that's where things get lost, is functional fitness. Like we don't call ourselves a functional fitness facility. I think that word got really overused, and we're general physical fitness. But functional for me means whatever that is. So you talked about you as a quarterback having to carry some extra weight to protect your body. Myself, when I wasn't the team leader, and I was in more of a role of a guy going a middle in the line, getting through there, bashing doors, carrying extra gear. I carried extra weight, and that was functional to me, right? And now, as I age, and I'm 42 years old, I want my body, my heart, my lungs to work less hard to keep me in shape. I still train for performance, and the aesthetics comes with that. Most of us here, all of three of us included, I think aesthetics is probably your number one goal.
Yeah.
But I don't focus on it because I focus on the performance, and that other stuff comes. And I think that's where people get lost.
And to that, what you're saying about like, and that right there, that just brought up something I thought about. We're all getting older, right? So technically, we're all getting uglier.
I stay young forever.
So in a way, like if you're chasing
we're
that,
getting uglier?
Yeah, if you're chasing that, if you're chasing the like
Speak for
the
yourself.
aesthetics, yeah, sure, funny. But like,
I was told today my mustache is better than last
It's
year's,
gonna-
so
yeah.
therefore,
Yeah, right. Keep going, Corey. You insulted us, but finish it.
all right, so like if you're chasing the vanities in the mirror, and I get it, we start there, and I did, and I'm guilty of it. But we're all getting older. We're all getting wrinkly, like old and wrinkly,
Yeah.
and like hunched over. If you're chasing that, like it's gonna fade eventually. So like,
Yes.
get fitter, get healthier, get better, and the aesthetics will come.
Hey, age is gravity in this world, this fitness world, right? Like it's always the gravity that's pulling you back down. So we talk about like trying to, keep that arc raising. You're a guy who's done a wonderful job of continuing over 15 years. You're in better shape than you were 2 weeks ago. You're in way better shape than you were 3 years ago when I met you. You've done a wonderful job of that, and that's what we're all trying to do. But to do that, to continue to raise it without that age or gravity pulling you down, you need to continue to give more. And that doesn't mean doing more necessarily. It means focusing on the right things, which is lowering your stress, getting some sleep, eating better, especially as I get at 42. Like, Casey, I don't really train more than 4 days a week. I do. I'll come in here, I get some movement in, but I spend a lot more time focusing on my sleep, on my water, on my stress, on keeping my brain in the right place. And that's what's going to keep you climbing. It's not just more.
Yeah. I think that's a big part. And it came up today earlier. I was talking to someone, and an off day doesn't necessarily, like, you train 4 days a week. You train heavily 4 days a week, not necessarily heavily, but
Yes.
high intensity, heavy weight. for specific days. But off days doesn't mean eat shitty food, sit on the couch because I'm resting.
No.
Off days mean like for an off day, yoga, mobility, do something like that. You're still taking care of yourself. Off day means resting your body physically. Yeah. Doesn't mean messing with anything mentally. Off day could mean meditation or anything that is going to improve you in some way. Still don't lose that intensity of the week just because, I got my 4 workouts in. Don't lose that drive. Now do something else to benefit me. If I do mobility on Saturday because my body's exhausted, I'm going to have a better workout Monday, right? So instead of sitting on the couch on Saturday and resting my body, I'm going to get more from it from getting up for maybe a half hour, go for a quick run, come back, stretch. Now I'm ready for the next week.
My biggest change, and knowing, when I started, okay, that never say die attitude, that grind, every day, day in and day out, it'll catch up to you. So what I realize now, and I'm looking back, I actually train hard, but I recover harder. That's the way I look at it. I train hard, recover harder. And the recovery part is something that it's overlooked, but it's very important. And I learned that the hard way, but it has changed me completely from when I started 15 years ago, right? So I started that crazy, never say die, sleep when I'm dead type situation. But when I turned it around and recovered and focused on my mind a little bit and my nutrition, everything changed for me.
So there's something you mentioned right now. I think we definitely hammered home the whole physical side of things today. So something you brought up and something we're aware of is you have dyslexia.
Yeah.
Right? And this, so I can relate in some sense, I have ADD, right? Attention deficit disorder at times. I found out I guess when I asked friends, they always knew, but through university, I struggled with it a lot, especially because it went from more practical stuff that was my focus in high school to now, having to sit through a 3-hour lecture, having to, sit down and study when it's exams. You're studying for 6-7 hours, plus having a 6-hour football schedule on top of that. Had to do a lot of changes in my own world, and I worked on that a lot more than even just the classes itself. So dyslexia, in a sense, what is it, first of all?
Well, here's the thing with my diagnosis of dyslexia. So years ago, when I was younger, I went through a lot of testing, and they couldn't figure out why I was slower in reading and writing. And I remember all of this stuff, and they labeled me dyslexic. Okay, so my dyslexia, it's a lot with writing. So my writing skills are really bad. So I'll write something and then look back, and it's completely opposite of what I thought was written down. And now, that was way back a little bit when. I've learned to adapt, okay? So I've learned to grow from those experiences with dyslexia and that label they give me. And it was a crutch, let's say, but it made me stronger. So my communication skills got preparation was key for me. So you know what? I was done a lot of schooling. I had to read chapter, 3 times over. Somebody had to read it once. So what did I have to do? I had to read 2 days ahead of time to prepare myself to get ready for whatever test I had or any speech I had to do or anything and with technology now, it's made it a lot easier for me. But then again, easier is definitely not always the best route with that. So don't shy away. If you have things going on, don't shy away from it. For me, it took me a while to figure out, like you just said, some people read it once, remember it, write it down, they're good for the test. Yeah. For me, what I learned, I had to, one, find some way to be interested in it, right? That was a big issue with ADD or ADHD, is your receptors aren't triggering when you're not reading something that you're excited in, right? So if you're reading something that you're not interested in, then your brain kind of shuts down, and then all of a sudden you flip through 3 chapters and you just thought about you playing football the last 4 years of your life.
So this is what I wonder with that kind of diagnosis, and being like a father of two and somebody that totally relates to that same situation with no diagnosis. I mean, I am older than both of you guys, and I feel like maybe that didn't even exist as a diagnosis. Like you just didn't hear about it when I was in my teens, in my high school time. It started to become a thing when I was a little bit older. Like I'm sure it was always a thing, but is that not the case for a lot? Like for so many of us, is that if it doesn't interest you, if it doesn't spark your fire, like the reason I bring this up, we're starting with this homeschooling, and this is not to play down your ADHD. It's just I feel like that if my boys, like they want them to sit in front of a computer screen for 200 hours or 200 minutes a day, and I even me sitting in a classroom for 200 minutes a day, it was fucking torture. Like I hated it.
Yeah.
And I did very poorly in school. And I feel like, and whether ADHD or ADD or any of these things, like it's that label I think that they're putting on kids too that's kind of like harming them. Because I feel like I would have been that kid and I've done fine without schooling and without
I think it's grades. I think it can be overused or overdiagnosed. Again, I'm not going to speak doctor terms, but I think it's sometimes easy. But I think at a young age, hard to tell. But like again, can't speak on doctors' ways. But at a young age, it's like let it see what happens.
Yeah,
like, let it go.
I got one kid who sit there with you for 3 hours and watch a game, and I got another kid who's like. But again, bouncing off the wall.
But both your kids, if we're doing something, right? If we're playing football in the front yard, one of your kids isn't going to leave halfway through the game. Right. So there's definitely things, but that was a big kind of part of it was like being able to, that was a big diagnosis for me, or like, again, don't know if I have a high level of it, but a big diagnosis was when you do have to learn something you're not interested in, I couldn't do it, or I really struggled with it. Yeah. Where other people or some people, even though they're not interested in it, they're still able to receive that information to run through it.
Something you don't want to eat, right? Like that you don't like.
Yes.
So if you want to talk,
maybe I don't know how it affects in that. That might be different, but just being able to kind of absorb information, whether or not you're interested in it, was a big factor in it. How like what I believe some people can do is just like, even though they don't like it, if I read that, I'm gonna trigger something in my brain that allows me to remember it.
So even like, so if we want to talk about my dyslexia, right? So I do dyslexia in the sense of like, I was diagnosed that when I was younger. So at the same time, learning as I grew, I kind of figured out, you know what? I have a reading and writing disability. Now, true transparency, this is the first time I've actually ever opened up about it, okay? So people know and certain people know, but you know what? With my confidence, and if you want to go back to like my weight loss or whatever it is, I used, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid of the fact that like that's my disability, but it doesn't define me. It doesn't define me. So I have strengths and weaknesses, and that's okay. And I think that if you're more transparent, it's hard as a younger kid, right? Being overweight, reading disability, writing disability, it gets you. But you know what? I'm grateful for all those times that I've had those experiences, but I've learned that if someone throws me in there, I'm going to go. And you know what? If people catch on that I can't read this or I can't write this, then that's fine.
But you know what, man? Like, kudos to you. And there's somebody listening right now who's getting fucking pumped about listening to you say this, because you're a machine in the gym. You're a machine of a person. And you've found a way. I mean, we went up to that Westside Tactical, course and had a fucking killer exam. And you have not shared that, but you had shared it with me. And I was also like, I was kind of oh, what do I do? What do I do? And then I realized, I'm like, you know what? Fucking Corey knows his shit. Like he knows his stuff. He knows this. And I can see you struggling on the exam. And I'm able to like go and speak, and that just said to the instructor Gus, and explained it to him, and Gus made sure that you were taken care of in a way that you could effectively communicate. And I think that's like where education's come a long way in the school systems, but as people too, and as an employer, I've learned a lot with having both of you guys share that to me, and by you guys both saying that right now to other people. They're going to look at situations different, because I'm going to be honest with you, Corey. There was times where, you know, we were playing. I remember us playing a game where you had to whatever one of the charades or some fucking shit, but it wasn't charades. It was like a fucking dirty charades because it was all about sex. Remember playing that? It was like so fun.
Cards Against Humanity.
I was shaking.
Yeah, Cards Against Humanity. And I remember watching you like try to like read these things, and I was like, what's wrong with him? Like, why is he like all drunk? What like? But you weren't, and I didn't comprehend. And I remember like the room was kind of laughing and not. And it was like, now though, by you sharing that and now sharing this on, you're going to help somebody else who's in a position of authority like me in leadership to be able to recognize something. And same as you, Casey, and be able to recognize something. And like, I mean, when I give you a job now, if you're not interested, you don't do a fucking very good job of it. Right? Like that. I mean,
but that's giving me the that's tools where, to, like, but you have so many more strengths.
Yeah,
that's exactly the thing. I get like, for me, for example, like things I didn't like, very tough for me to learn. I learned I have to be very repetitive with it. If there's something I don't like, I have to read it, like you said, a couple times. I have to write it down. Like when I studied for exams I wasn't interested in, my tactic that I learned, and it took me probably 4 years in university, was I'd have to read a paragraph, not just a sentence and copy it word for word. I'd have to read a paragraph. I'd have to write it in my own words. So I'd read it to the point I understand it, write in my own words. Then from there, I would take those notes. The next week I would study. I would rewrite those in my own words from what I wrote previously, and I would have to write it 3 or 4 times. But because of that, now it's my own thoughts. Now I'm thinking more, I'm interested in it. But at the same time, things that I was interested in, I would throw it. I'm pretty confident that when it came to football, for example, I was a quarterback and I knew the playbook better than anyone on my team. Right. I'd say, besides for maybe my rookie year, better than anyone. Because I had interest into it. I could remember 160 plays each year. When we got into huddles, not going to say I could say them perfectly, but we had a signal system and I knew the playbook and I could tell you in a split second exactly what you need to run, what all 6 receivers need to run, and what our linemen are doing and what their steps are. And so it's when you have passion for something, and I think that's a benefit for people with ADD or ADHD or dyslexia, when you have something you're interested in, you will thrive at. Yeah. Your creativity is higher, and there's all these things that just like, yeah, I didn't understand that chapter I just read, but I guarantee the images in my head that I just ran through this story and elaborate thing, whatever the topic was more interesting than you reading that book you just spent an hour on.
And it gives leaders the opportunity to like, man, don't try to force feed somebody into a job. And that's where I was going with that. It wasn't meant as an insult by any means, but it's like, you know, like, why am I going to force you into, like, you don't want to write those blogs, man. And like, whether that has anything to do with that or not, it's, you know, and there's certain positions we're just not going to put you in because, you know, I recognize where your strengths are and it doesn't even matter what the label is. It's just part of like being a good human or a good leader is putting people in positions for them to succeed. Mm-hmm. And part of being a good human is recognizing your strengths and your weaknesses. And that's what you guys are doing. That's what I'm doing. And by you guys sharing your stories about your, you know, shortcomings as society would label them, or me with the mental illness types things, we're all helping somebody. And there's somebody listening right now. And if you are, and you want to shoot something to Corey, like about that, or to Casey about that, especially if you're a young person and really struggling with that, maybe that next steps towards your growth, then do that. So speaking of growth, I want to throw in an ad right now. If you guys want to just fill up your drinks, this has been fucking unreal so far. And thank you very much, both you guys, for opening up about that. I didn't know we were going to go that far, and I'm so pumped that we did. So anyways, speaking of standards and leadership, let's speak about Murray Insurance. So this episode is sponsored by Murray Insurance and Financial Services in Kingsville, Ontario. They are Southwestern Ontario's #1 ranked Desjardins insurance agency by their clients, and they are owned by Garage Gym, Kingsville OGs, Ian and Kara Murray, who we both care about very much. Ian and Kara's team pride themselves on many of the high standards that Garage Gym members come to expect. They're experts in their industry with a combined over 100 years of experience. They provide the best customer service, including a claims concierge service, which is exclusive to their clients. They focus on community, employing local team members, and investing back into the Windsor, Essex County community on a continual basis. And I can say that is 100% true. We do not do business with anybody who doesn't do that. And we are so proud of them and what they're doing right now for children's cancer. Yep. So if this comes out before September 16th, head out. You guys can look this up. They're supporting their niece, but not just their niece, every child that has cancer, trying to raise some money and doing a blood donation as well. So they're a one-stop shop for everything to protect you, your family, and your assets with the best policies in the industry. Oh, and they also have incredible rates, especially when you combine your home, auto, and other insurance policies together with them. Give their team a call today. Send them a text at 519-733-23311. Or sorry, let me say that again. 519-733-2331. 519-733-2331. Or check them out online at murrayinsurance.ca.
Great.
Cool, man. So I want to ask you guys a couple questions. Huge fires right now in California, Oregon, all kinds of places. So a couple firemen with me. Like how these things start, like spark, air, and fuel, right? We got that part covered.
Got it.
But how do these things grow? I don't think we need to get into the start because there's so many ways they can start. But how do they grow so fast?
So a thing with like the fires going on in like California and in Oregon right now is like they're forest fires or bush fires, and like they can start from a number of reasons. Most of them, especially in Ontario, for example, the number one starter is dry seasons with lightning, right? So natural occurrences where lightning strikes a tree, it can smolder for however long based on conditions, can spark weeks later. Big thing I know, especially the media blows it up. So whether or not that's a thing, a lot of them are man-made, unfortunately, in the States, because all it takes is, someone sighting off fireworks or, a bonfire left unattended at the end of the night or something like that.
A bonfire will smolder.
It will. Like if you have a good burning fire, you think it's gonna just burn itself out. But if you don't have a proper something set up, is like if there's a root system underneath, all it takes is to catch a root system underneath, travel 30 feet up to that tree.
So it's gonna go through the ground?
So that's so with lightning, for example, that's a big misconception is like if lightning strikes but it's raining, it's not gonna do anything. But a big thing, like I think it can smolder I saw one thing could smolder up for a year. I've heard more, it's like a number of weeks. So say you have a number of lightning storms, it can strike a tree, and if it gets down into the root system, it can smolder under there for say 3 weeks, 3-4 weeks. Now you have nice dry conditions, high winds going up, drying up the whole area, drying up that fuel, and then it'll work itself up the tree, and all of a sudden it'll go.
Even like hay, like in barns, like with the humidity and the dryness, that can spontaneous combust too as well. So those environments, like a hay farm and everything, those are high priorities. Like to keep, you don't want that moisture and that dryness of like
the weather. The weather affects everything with forest fires, especially. Yeah. I mean, right? There's a number of things like your wind conditions, your temperature, your humidity, time of day, all this stuff happens, right? If there's high wind conditions, your fuel, your trees, they're drying out quicker. If it's hotter, same concept. If the humidity is lower because it's hotter, then same thing. It's pulling that moisture out of the trees. It's doing all this stuff. So now that's what's starting to fuel it. If you have higher wind conditions, fire's going to move quicker tree to tree, right? You have higher wind conditions, it has the ability to jump tree to tree. And then,
like we were saying before, sorry, Case. Like,
no.
Like the fire triangle, Tony. It's it's oxygen, fuel, spark. So
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, remember our good friends were moving to a house, and it was it lit up that day, and I think it was stain and some old rags.
Yeah.
And what would be the spark of something like that, though?
Linseed oil. Well,
just the chemicals.
So the heat,
mixing?
the chemical reaction. So there's another element, and it's the fourth. It's the fourth.
Tetrahedron.
It's the chemical reaction. So we use chemicals or foam and stuff to kind of mitigate that. But then again, like that's another element. So like the heat, and if it gets hot enough, and those all those molecules keep. I'm not a chemist. I don't know, but then those molecules keep bouncing off each other, create heat. It'll smolder, get hot enough, and then it'll just spontaneous combust.
And then once it's going, like the big issue right now in Oregon and California is the weather. The weather's not playing with them. So once you have a number of fires burning in these areas burning, once they reach each other, they combine essentially, right? And then they work their way through. Wind controls everything. Topography. So just thinking like, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I took climatology.
Nice.
I know the sciences behind it. But it's like, it's as crazy as to the time of day, right? If it's 2:00 in the afternoon, wind conditions are different, right? The Earth's heated up from the sun all day. Now you have more heat coming off the Earth's surface, creates more wind conditions. Now that wind is sparking into it's more difficult to read, or you have more fluctuations from that 2 to 4 period. But then with that now comes down to what fuel's available. So if you have a giant forest, for example, and you can get into hardwood, softwoods and stuff, but if you have a lot of trees and a lot of wind, it's going to jump tree to tree and it's going to expand, right? And from there, if you have an uphill, right, heat rises. If you have an uphill slope, that heat's going to move to it and it's going to move quicker uphill. If you have valleys, it's going to move as a funnel through the valley. Like
just like in structure fire.
in a structure fire, the
Get up
staircase.
top, right?
Staircase is the most dangerous place to be at, right? Because it's
close, but and two, like anything that comes. So if this table caught fire, it's in the air. The table is in the air, so that chemical reaction, all that heat that's rising, that black smoke, they call it flashover, they call it rollover, whatever it is, it ignites, right? So like when this table gets fire, it's energy in the air. So this will the smoke will ignite as well, and that's where a lot of they say flashover is intimate, because more fuel you have in the structure or more fuel you have in the forest, it will just continuously ignite.
So we're gonna be doing an episode in very short terms. I have a fucking crazy story about a fire, and I want to get into some of his. Casey's got like a million about the forest fire, so we want to definitely get into that and some tactics later. I think that'll be an exciting episode. But before we cut out today, I want to, and you know what? And one more thing is listening to you two talk about stuff like fitness and fighting fires and something you're passionate of. I mean, there's no way I would say you guys have a fucking disability. So it's just like Casey said, is where you lack in one area will make you so much stronger in other, but just keep working on those weaknesses though. Don't just focus on the strengths. So I know I ask everybody who comes on here to give me some funny stories and shit. And Corey, you tried to bitch out. You gave me all these ones, but the story, you have one of the greatest stories ever told.
Oh, I think I know this one.
Nona's underwear. Let's hear this, dude. Tell the people what they want to hear. Tell the people what they want to hear. Do you want me to fill your tequila up?
Okay.
All right, let's hear this, man.
All right, this story comes out. All right,
It's coming out, man. Because I have a Nona, and I think you have a Nona. Or we had Nonas, I guess.
So I need to give a little bit of rundown. You know me trying to explain stories. I'm like, I can go on.
Well, let's just get right to it.
Let's go right to the point.
What did you do?
Were you wearing them?
There we go. Oh, don't blow it.
Hang on.
You haven't heard this? Fuck yeah, let's go. Bring it.
Okay, so for a little bit, I have to say, so I lived with my Nona for grade school years. So I'd say between grade 6 and grade 8. Lived with my Nona, with my mom, my parents separated. We lived there. So
Gotcha.
my Nona hooked me up with food and hence all that stuff. On top of that,
Hence all that stuff, the extra weight.
She hooked me up with some clothing.
The portly build.
So I ran one morning. Oh fuck! I ran out of underwear. Right, so I had nothing.
As one
clean.
does.
I had nothing clean, and so yeah, Nona threw me her granny panties. You know what I mean? So I put them bitches on, and I went to school with some granny panties, and those fucking things were riding up like bad. So yeah, yes, did I wear women's underwear or grandma's underwear to school? I did.
So this is my question.
I have.
How do you, how, when you live
Free
with
ball
your
it.
Nona,
Just
do you
free
not
ball
have
it.
the laundry done? I feel like Nona's on top of the laundry at all times. She must have been slacking,
She
right?
gave me that shit in the
Or
morning.
maybe it was
and I
her
put it
joke on you. Maybe Nona, like your Nona's pretty sly.
She's slick.
One.
She gave me them
Yeah.
and I put them on and I went out the door, man. She fed me well, so I couldn't say no. So it went on and I felt that
Were
will
you
stick
supported in them?
forever. And thanks for letting me.
Unreal.
Thanks for letting
So
me
I mean,
talk.
I think if you're welcome, you're okay with sharing the other stuff you shared today was way, like, probably way more personal to you. Than, yeah, no problem with that. So thank you so much.
Good stuff.
But we're gonna wrap this episode up. Corey, I cannot thank you enough. Even Casey too. You're here every week, but like both of you guys, kind of opening up today was just amazing, incredible, and probably like a big step for both of you, I think, in terms of like your mental well-being for one who's been through some of that mental kind of physical and steps that or mental steps you've had to break through, barriers. But one thing for everybody, like wrapping up and closing this thing up, is like, if you're a first responder, you are not training for your best day. I know you guys hear this all the time, but you're training optimal training for suboptimal conditions, because, you know, if you're a cop, shoot your fucking gloves on, man, because it's going to happen when it's wintertime. You got to pull your gun. If you're a fireman, train like it's going to be the worst weather ever. You know, train like it's going to be winter. Train like you got to get up the 6 flights of stairs, even though Amherstburg, Kingsville have very few high rises, because the worst scenario always presents itself and you want to be at your best.
Huge point there. Like today's the 9/11 Memorial Day. Is like people are fucking exhausted because they just walked 110 steps. Everyone who walked those 110 steps had the mentality that when I get there, I'm throwing someone on my back and I'm carrying them down.
Yes.
Right? So train for that opportunity. You see those videos of the guys who were off duty or whatever the situation is, they park their fucking car and they sprint 3 miles to get to the towers to help. That's the stuff that you need to be ready for. And like, again, unfortunate and insane scenario that hopefully never ever happens again, or never happens in your career, but be ready for it.
But if
why
you trained
not?
hard, you have the confidence that you can get up, and that's going to be a huge thing to push you forward. Whether the circumstance and the environment on that day, I'm sure, were nothing, not even comparable.
No.
However, once you do something and you accomplish something and you know you can push yourself, you're going to get there. How that applies to every other person is that, you know, we talked about the mental part of this, is that you're also training for suboptimal conditions. So why do I spend so much time meditating, reading, journaling, doing all these things to prepare myself? Is so that when I do get the bad day, I find out my gym's got to close for 5 fucking months, is that I'm able to keep myself in suboptimal conditions to keep running a high efficiency. And all of you can apply that to your lives. And thank you, both you guys, and thank you, Corey, for coming on today. I think this is an awesome episode. So, man, if people want to hook up with you and ask you some questions about any of the topics you covered, how do they get a hold of you?
Big on Instagram.
Don't give your phone number out.
No, big on Instagram. Facebook.
Hey, you're a cute
Facebook,
chick.
I try to stay off. So no, Facebook I try to stay off of, just keep it strictly Instagram. So Coach Corey or Corey V 309.
Let's go, Corey V309 if you want to get a hold of him.
Reach out.
Yeah, single. He's single, guys.
If you
Just
think
saying.
he's cute.
Anyways, all right. Thanks, guys. Cheers to this. Another great episode, and I think this was an awesome one.
Amazing.
Cheers. This production was brought to you today on film by Axel Films. They are our partners in everything we do, from videography to productions, marketing. They work with us every day to create strategies and powerful marketing campaigns for brands. They provide creative services for small companies like us and the Toronto Raptors, who are playing Game 7 in just a few minutes. We're going to have to get out of here to go see. They use everything from video production. They offer in-house strategies, concepts, and writing to producing, capturing, editing your final branded video. I can tell you that they have helped us immensely. Love working with these guys. Josh, Nico, and of course, Joe. Call them, visit them at axelfilms.com, and tell them that Tony or Tango One sent you.